You were taught a lie from the moment you could understand the word reward. They told you that if you kept your head down, did the work, and played by the rules, your time would come. You believed it. So you stay late, you double-check your emails, you cover for your colleagues, and you wait for the inevitable tap on the shoulder. Then the promotion goes to the guy who leaves at 5, spends half his day socializing with the directors, and somehow takes credit for the heavy lifting you did entirely behind the scenes. You sit there, staring at your screen, feeling the cold sting of betrayal, wondering what you did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply brought a rule book to a knife fight. The world does not run on justice, and it certainly does not run on hard work. Hard work is the baseline. It is a commodity. And like all commodities, it is easily replaced and cheaply bought by those who know how to consolidate power. If you are operating under the assumption that the system will eventually recognize your virtue, you are actively choosing to be a victim of those who understand how the system actually works. Fairness is a pacifier for the powerless. Leverage is the only language the world understands. This is the velvet trap of polite society. We are conditioned to believe that morality and success are parallel lines, that the good guy eventually wins because the universe naturally demands balance. It doesn't. The universe is entirely indifferent to your exhaustion. The people who actually pull the levers of power, the ones sitting in the corner offices, securing the massive contracts and quietly dictating the flow of capital, do not operate by the rules they preach to the masses. They preach fairness specifically to keep you predictable. They preach patience so you won't demand what you are owed today. As long as you are waiting for your turn, you are not a threat. You are just a highly efficient, self-managing battery powering someone else's empire. You are watching this because you are tired. You are exhausted by the quiet humiliation of watching less capable, lazier people bypass you simply because they know how to play the social game while you are busy doing the actual labor. You feel that sickening knot in your stomach when someone smiles to your face and then subtly undermines you in a meeting, and you don't know how to strike back without looking like the irrational, emotional one. Deep down, you are beginning to realize that your reliance on pure merit is actually a sophisticated form of fear. It is infinitely safer to put your head down and hope to be noticed than it is to step into the arena of psychological warfare and ruthlessly secure your space. But the fact that you feel that cold anger means you are finally waking up. You are realizing that the invisible barriers holding you back are not tied to your technical skill, but to your strategic positioning. The game is absolutely rigged, but a rigged game can be mastered once you stop playing the hand you were dealt and start looking at the cards the dealer is hiding. You have to strip away the comforting delusion that being a good soldier is enough. It is time to learn the silent mechanisms of leverage, to understand the physics of power that dictate who takes the lion's share and who is left fighting for the remaining scraps. But realizing the game is rigged is only the first step. To survive it, you must stop fighting the current and learn how to drown your competition without ever making a splash. To drown your competition without making a splash, you first have to understand why most people thrash around and inevitably sink themselves. Most ambitious people operate under the delusion that power is loud. They believe that victory requires a visible battlefield and a public defeat. Picture the typical high-stakes meeting or team strategy session. There is always that one individual who views every minor disagreement as a test of dominance. They argue forcefully, they interrupt, they try to intellectually bludgeon their rivals with data and sheer volume. They treat their career like a gladiator arena, constantly struggling against their peers day after day. This is the strategy of the deeply insecure. When you fight wars of attrition, when you openly clash with a rival to prove you are right, you are burning your own social capital. More dangerously, you are exposing your intentions. A visible enemy is an easy enemy to defend against. You give your competition a perfectly clear target to aim at. The person who actually holds the leverage in that room is never the one raising their voice. It is the strategist sitting back, quietly observing the emotional desperation of the loud arguer. If you want to eliminate a rival, do not fight them. Make them feel profoundly, unconditionally safe. The most lethal enemy is the one who successfully wears the mask of a friend. When your rival proposes an ambitious but structurally flawed idea, your instinct might be to point out the flaws to look smart. Suppress that instinct. Instead, agree with them. Praise their visionary thinking in front of leadership. Flatter their ego, validate their brilliance, and draw them close. When a person feels deeply validated, their psychological guard vanishes. That is the exact moment you hand them the rope. You encourage them to take absolute ownership of the project that is mathematically destined to collapse. You step out of their way, offer your passive support, and let gravity do the heavy lifting. You do not have to push a proud person off a ledge. You simply have to gently guide them to the absolute edge, smiling the entire time, and let their own arrogance take the final step. This kind of invisible elimination is only possible if you possess something the loud arguer does not, which is information asymmetry. In any competitive environment, everyone has access to the exact same baseline data. They read the same corporate emails, attend the same quarterly briefings, and look at the exact same spreadsheets. If you are operating exclusively with the same information as your peers, you are, by definition, strictly average. True leverage is not found in the data everyone can see. It is built in the shadows of the informal network. You must become a silent vacuum for the secrets, fears, and unspoken anxieties of the people around you. Do you actually know the executive assistant who manages the director's private calendar? Do you know which manager is secretly terrified of missing their targets before the official warnings go out? People are inherently lonely and desperate to feel important. If you learn to cultivate a quiet, non-judgmental silence, they will instinctively rush to fill the void. They will hand you their insecurities, their biases, and their unannounced plans over casual coffee. When you know a rival is secretly drowning in a specific area, you know exactly which impossible task to encourage them to lead. You aren't guessing at their breaking point. You are acting on intelligence that simply isn't on the public radar. You aren't gambling, you are collecting. When you control the flow of invisible information and learn to eliminate resistance with a supportive smile, you effortlessly take ground from those who are blindly fighting fair. But taking ground is one thing. Maintaining it requires you to fundamentally change who you are willing to become. To fundamentally change who you are willing to become is the exact threshold where most ambitious people freeze, suddenly paralyzed by the modern obsession with being authentic. Think of the professional who wears their rigidity like a badge of honor. A new management team takes over, bringing a vastly different, perhaps highly political, corporate culture. Instead of reading the room and adjusting their strategy, this person crosses their arms and refuses to engage. They say, "I won't play those games. I don't flatter people I don't respect. I am staying true to myself." Over the next year, they are quietly sidelined, boxed out of major decisions, and eventually rendered entirely obsolete. And as they pack up their desk, they comfort themselves with a warm, pathetic blanket of moral superiority, genuinely believing they lost because they kept their integrity. Let us dissect this and call it exactly what it is. This is not integrity. This is arrogance, and it is a profound form of cowardice masquerading as principle. The world does not care about your preferred working style. The world does not care about your internal emotional landscape or your personal flavor of authenticity. The world cares exclusively about outcomes. When you refuse to adapt to a new environment because it feels fake, you are really just protecting your own ego from the acute discomfort of having to learn a new way of operating. You are using your supposed morals as a shield to hide your lack of strategic range. Fairness is a pacifier for the powerless. Leverage is the only language the world understands, and you cannot build leverage if you are rigid. The most formidable people in any hierarchy are entirely fluid. They do not have a single, immovable personality that they rigidly force onto every interaction. They understand that identity is not a sacred, fragile sculpture that shatters if you change its shape. Identity is a tool. If the situation requires a conservative, risk-averse tactician, they become the most cautious person in the room. If the dynamic shifts and demands a ruthless, visionary risk-taker, they switch out the mask instantly. This is not deception. This is weaponized pragmatism. You are currently holding yourself hostage with your own labels. You say, "I am an introvert, so I don't do office politics." You say, "I am a creative, so I don't deal with the financial metrics." You proudly announce these limitations to the world as if they are virtues. They are not virtues. They are self-imposed chains that make it incredibly easy for a more flexible rival to maneuver around you and take what is yours. If you can only operate in one specific temperature, if you can only be one thing, you are entirely predictable. And in any competitive environment, predictability is a fatal weakness. If you can sit with an egoist and mirror their grandiosity, sit with a neurotic and project grounding calm, and sit with a shark and project absolute danger, you become impossible to trap. You must kill the vanity of authenticity and learn to wear the mask the moment requires. Because once you finally detach from the childish need to be stubbornly yourself at all times, you unlock the ability to maneuver freely through any system. And it is only from this state of total tactical fluidity that you can begin to engineer the most dangerous, unassailable position a human being can possibly hold. Absolute indispensability. Once you achieve that total tactical fluidity, you stop worrying about how people feel about you and start focusing entirely on how much they rely on you. Because absolute indispensability is the bedrock of all true leverage. Most people spend their entire careers desperately trying to be liked. They believe that being pleasant, agreeable, and a standard team player is the ultimate professional insurance policy. It isn't. Likability is a remarkably weak, volatile emotion. It fluctuates with the mood of the room, and the moment a crisis hits or budgets are slashed, All that carefully built-up goodwill evaporates instantly. You do not want to be the person everyone enjoys having coffee with. You want to be the person whose sudden absence causes widespread, systemic panic. Think of the quiet middleman who exclusively holds the personal relationship with a firm's most lucrative client, or the isolated engineer who alone understands the tangled legacy code that processes the company's daily revenue. These individuals do not have to beg for respect. They command it through sheer necessity. Corporate structures, HR departments, and management continually preach the virtues of cross-training, transparency, and knowledge sharing. They dress this up in the warm language of teamwork, but it is actually a mechanism of control. The system desperately wants you to share your knowledge so that you can be easily, seamlessly replaced. A replaceable employee is a cheap, docile employee who has zero leverage to dictate their own terms. To gain an unfair advantage, you must ruthlessly resist this programming. You must apply the architecture of dependency by intentionally manufacturing necessity. In every business, in every social circle, and in every hierarchy, there is a choke point. There is always a specific bottleneck where critical decisions, complex data, or vital relationships converge. Your objective is to find that choke point and occupy it entirely. You must hoard the specific, difficult knowledge that terrifies your superiors. You make yourself the only key that fits a very specific, highly dangerous lock. Pain is the ultimate negotiator. When losing you causes the system acute financial or operational pain, you own the system. If losing you is just a mild inconvenience that takes 2 weeks to backfill with a new hire, the system owns you. But holding a choke point is fundamentally a defensive position. To pivot to offense, you must pair your indispensability with unnatural, jarring speed. Most people lose leverage simply because they are too slow. They overthink. They wait for perfect conditions. They schedule meetings to prepare for other meetings, endlessly refining their approach. While they are busy polishing their plans, the predator has already eaten. You must operate on a timeline that actively breaks the psychological rhythm of everyone around you. Military strategists call this the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. The individual who cycles through this loop the fastest automatically dictates the reality of the situation. If you can observe a shift in the environment, decide on a counter move, and execute it before your rival has even finished analyzing the initial problem, you are essentially operating inside their timeline. You own their reality. When you combine the leverage of being completely indispensable with a speed that defies standard corporate logic, you induce a state of constant, exhausting catch-up in your competitors. They cannot predict you because you are moving faster than their traditional frameworks allow. You can move faster than anyone and hold the absolute keys to the kingdom. But if you broadcast your moves and seek applause for your speed, you immediately surrender your power to the crowd. You can move faster than anyone and hold the absolute keys to the kingdom, but if you broadcast your moves and seek applause for your speed, you immediately surrender your power to the crowd. We live in a culture that rewards constant broadcasting. Everyone wants to be seen, heard, and validated. They announce their goals, they talk incessantly in meetings to prove they are engaged, and they frantically fill every awkward pause with nervous chatter. This is a massive tactical error. Noise is the ultimate indicator of weakness. When you speak unnecessarily, You are giving away free intelligence. You reveal your baseline anxieties, your strategic intentions, and exactly how much you actually know or don't know. The person with the unfair advantage understands that information is a rare currency, and they absolutely refuse to spend it just to soothe their own ego. They do not broadcast, they operate from within the void. Imagine a high-stakes salary or contract negotiation. Most people enter that room absolutely terrified of silence. They state their required number, and when the other party pauses to think, panic immediately sets in. The amateur starts talking, nervously justifying their price, offering unprompted concessions, and essentially negotiating against themselves before the other person has even uttered a single word. Now, picture the strategist on the other side of that table. They state their requirement, lean back, look the amateur directly in the eye, and simply hold the silence. They let the quiet stretch until it becomes physically agonizing. They know that silence acts like a mirror. It forces the other person to project their own insecurities into the void. If you don't speak, they will assume you know something they don't. They will assume you are utterly unbothered by the prospect of walking away. Fairness is a pacifier for the powerless. Leverage is the only language the world understands, and you exert tremendous leverage simply by withholding your reaction. When you master strategic silence, you condition people to watch you closely, but silence alone is static. To keep your dominance active, you must pair that silence with manufactured unpredictability, the greatest danger you face. Once you secure a position of power, is that people will get comfortable with you. If you are always calm, always agreeable, and always available, people will inevitably begin to take you for granted. They map out your behavioral boundaries and realize they have nothing to fear. In the theater of power, predictability always invites exploitation. To prevent this, you must occasionally and ruthlessly break your own pattern. If you are known for being highly responsive, suddenly disappear for 24 hours without explanation. If you are normally the voice of reason, show a brief, freezing flash of cold anger over a breached boundary, then immediately return to your baseline calm. Deny a small, routine request that you would normally approve, and offer absolutely no justification for the refusal. This is not about being erratic or emotionally unstable. It is a highly controlled disruption of expectations. It keeps everyone around you slightly off balance. It serves as a quiet, visceral reminder that you are a dangerous entity, that your favor is never guaranteed, and that you are entirely capable of changing the rules at a moment's notice. Mastering this cold, calculated unpredictability and commanding the silence will grant you unparalleled control over any room you enter. You will hold the psychological high ground in every interaction. But these external mechanics of power, no matter how flawless, are entirely useless if the mind executing them is still secretly chained to the opinions of the sheep. These external mechanics of power, no matter how flawless, are entirely useless if the mind executing them is still secretly chained to the opinions of the sheep. You can master strategic silence. You can successfully manufacture necessity, and you can move with a terrifying, unpredictable speed. But if your internal architecture is built on a swamp of insecurity, your leverage will inevitably collapse. The greatest threat to your newfound advantage is not the rival plotting across the hall. It is the lingering, desperate need to be validated by them. Look at the individual who finally secures a massive, life-changing win, a promotion, a lucrative contract, or a quiet victory. What is their immediate reflexive instinct? They run to social media, or they casually bring it up in group conversations, practically begging for someone to pat them on the back. They trade the dense, quiet power of a private victory for the cheap, fleeting currency of public applause. In doing so, they hand the psychological leash right back to the crowd. The addiction to external validation is the most insidious enemy you face. When you publicly explain your successes, you bleed out the kinetic energy that should be secretly fueling your next move. You are quite literally selling your gold for plastic. To secure an unfair advantage that cannot be stripped away, you must build an impenetrable internal citadel. You must learn to consume your victories in absolute undisturbed silence. When you keep your achievements locked in the dark, you cultivate a quiet, undeniable gravity. You walk into a room knowing exactly what you are capable of, and because you do not ask for anyone's approval, people instinctively submit to your frame. But to hold that gravity, you must execute a second internal enemy, the deep-seated fear of being the bad guy. We are programmed by childhood fables to believe that the hero is always universally liked. In the brutal reality of the adult world, if you are changing the status quo, if you are actively taking ground, you are inevitably going to upset those who benefit from your subservience. If you fire an incompetent anchor who is dragging your business down, you are the villain to them. If you cut off a draining, stagnant friendship to protect your focus, you are arrogant in their eyes. If you are terrified of the moment someone whispers that you are no longer nice, you will unconsciously sabotage your own ascent just to stay safe in the warm, crowded herd. You must develop the stomach to be disliked by the mediocre. This requires you to finally stop repressing your shadow. Society demands that you suppress your natural aggression, your calculated self-interest, and your coldness, labeling these traits as inherently toxic. But repression only creates fragile individuals who either chronically underachieve or eventually snap. The strategist does not kill their inner monster. They leash it. They integrate it. You need your aggression to fiercely defend your boundaries when a rival tests them. You need your cold calculation to cut ties with a failing project without sentimentality. You need your greed to demand the absolute highest premium for the necessity you have so carefully manufactured. A harmless person is not a moral person. They are simply a victim in waiting. Fairness is a pacifier for the powerless. Leverage is the only language the world understands. You now know exactly how to speak it. You understand how to eliminate resistance with a smile, how to hoard the invisible intelligence, and how to occupy the vital choke points of the systems around you. The game has always been rigged, but starting tomorrow, you are no longer the one being played. When you walk back into the wild, do not ask for permission. Do not wait for your turn. Look at the board, identify the leverage, and quietly take exactly what is yours.